Leopard Writers, it's Mrs. Helwig, and yesterday in Writer's Workshop I taught you that writers of personal narrative can go back and can add to their stories to elaborate. So sometimes we notice that we're writing our story a little bit too fast, and if we go back and we read it out loud to ourselves, we think, wait a second, there's a big part there that I totally missed. And then we can go back and add to either our pictures or our writing to elaborate those details that we missed the first time. So today what I want to teach you is that writers can also revise their stories. Okay, many of you have probably already learned about revising before and editing. I used to get the two mixed up, and so the way I would think about revision was that it's like we're re-seeing our stories. Okay, it's almost like we're putting on a pair of sunglasses and seeing them through a different lens than we did before. And when authors are revising, they're really working to fancy up their stories. Okay, editing is more about fixing up the story. It's like if you have a car that's broken and it needs some new parts and new pieces, and you got to fix that up before it's ready to drive, right? That's fixing up, that's editing. We're going to talk more about that tomorrow. But today we're going to talk about revision and some strategies for how we can revise our stories to fancy them up. This is the more fun part. In my mind, it's getting to add words, take words out, and just usually craft more beautiful language, okay? So we can do this in a variety of ways, but I'm going to share some strategies with you today that writers use to revise. Okay, so we can do this by describing the five senses. So what it smells like, what it sounded like, what it tasted like, what it felt like, what we saw or noticed. We can describe our setting. So that's not just like what the weather was like that day. That's one that I should add probably. I'm revising my revision chart. How about that? Okay, so the weather. But also describing the setting, like the time of day, the season, the year or the date, and even the weather could be the setting. And then another way that writers can revise is by pushing our dialogue to the next level. Okay, this is one I'm excited to share with you guys, especially like 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, because there's a lot of different ways we can write dialogue. Like we can just say, oh, he said to go look at the dog, and then we keep going, right? We're including some dialogue there, but if we add our punctuation, our quotation marks, and correct punctuation, like the comma inside the quotation mark, go look at the dog, he said. That's putting it, it's raising it to the next level a little bit. Okay, so then a level 3 would be, for example, like, so about that puppy, Matt slowly started. Okay, here, said is dead. I'm using punctuation, and I'm even using punctuation in a crafty way with that ellipses there to build suspense. So there's no Matt said anymore, but it's Matt slowly started. Okay? And level 4, then, if I push that up even to a higher level, would be, so about that puppy, Matt slowly says as we walk up the stairs. Okay, so in that, even in the dialogue, not only including who said it and how they said it, but who, how, and where, like what was the setting in the dialogue. Okay, so you can take even simple dialogue and make it increasingly complex or increasingly descriptive in your writing as well. Okay, so I'm going to show you today how I can use these. And you know, when I revise, I do different things each time. Like you guys have seen me revise things even this week where I would just go in and out with my pencil. Today, like the story I'm revising for you, the first time that we saw a mask from the coronavirus, I don't have any room. It's pretty packed in there, right? Like I didn't skip every other line. I didn't leave a lot of room for my story to grow. And so today I'm going to be adding in using sticky notes, and you can do that if you have those at home. I have also seen people just take a piece of paper, like any paper that you have at home. I mean, you could tape it to the bottom of your notebook to extend it out that way. You could cut the paper in half if you don't need quite a whole paper, and tape it on that way, and then that gives you room to grow. Or you could put it over here so you can do arrows and put that text out here, and then fold it in when you need to close your notebook. If it's on the bottom, you could always fold it up. Okay, so please know that it's okay if it looks messy right now. Learning is messy and writing is messy, and if you're typing, you can always just add in there, but even when I've typed long papers, sometimes I'll add comments out to the side using a tool in Microsoft Word. So there's lots of tools that writers use to revise, but one that I'm going to use today is the sticky note. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to read back through my story, and again, I encourage you to read it out loud, okay? Because when you read it out loud and you listen to it, it almost puts you as the reader. You're the one like listening to the story, and sometimes you notice things that you've left out then. So I'm going to read, and I'm going to think about if there's places I can include more descriptive details about the five senses or the setting, or if there's anywhere I can push my dialogue. So it says, news of this virus, this COVID-19 disease it causes, continued to circulate on the news. We have prepared for e-learning just in case before leaving leaving school the day before spring break. I'm just thinking right now, if I kind of am describing a setting right now when I said a day before spring break. A contingency plan, they called it. Excuse me. My family and I decided that day to forego our original plan of flying to Florida and staying at a resort near other people, to drive and rent a house so we could stay in, cook our own meals, and avoid people while still enjoying a vacation together. Okay, so already I've done a lot of describing, but I have not put any dialogue. So I'm thinking like this might be a good place to add dialogue. Unless that contingency plan part, that's kind of like dialogue, but I'll say, it says, we had never driven this far with our kids and did have to stay in a hotel on the way there. Mom, are we there yet? Everybody's favorite question, every parent's favorite question on a car trip, right? Are we there yet? Haven asked for the fourth time from the back seat. Not yet, honey. Keep watching Frozen 2. Frozen 2, I encouraged her. Okay, so I'm adding this to my story, and you guys see I even had to go over to the back side of my sticky note there. So I'm trying to add in some dialogue, so it's not just so much of me telling, but I'm going to show the reader what it was like to be in our car and in our truck. Actually, I didn't say that either, so that would be a good detail I could add. We had never driven this far before with our kids, and so maybe I could even add there. So we packed up the truck quickly. Okay. Okay. So you guys see how I just wrote right there. I even used a pen. Like I don't always recommend that. A lot of times I use a pencil because I like make a lot of mistakes. I like to erase them. But this can help you to see like the difference between what you wrote in the first part and then what it is that you added in when you were doing that revision work. Okay. And this is just the very tip of the iceberg. Like I've got a lot more work to do to continue revising this story. But I'm going to leave you guys with that so that you can take the time to read your story once and add in just sense details. Okay, then reread it out loud to yourself and go in and add setting details. So you're gonna read your story like at least 3 times out loud when you go through this process. And it's probably going to take you quite a while to add in all the different details so that you're making this like Hollywood blockbuster movie story that your reader can picture like that movie in their mind as they read it. Okay? So remember, writers, today and every day, writers can revise. They can re-see their story and fancy it up by describing the 5 senses, describing the setting, or pushing their dialogue to the next level. I can't wait to see how your stories continue to grow as you revise today.